Alright, what is going on? Welcome to episode 3 of the daily profile series. Today we are going to be going over New York manipulation. So if you guys haven't seen episodes 1 and 2, I will leave the links in the description. With that being said, let's jump right into this video. So like our previous 2 videos, we have to understand the previous session's kill zones before we jump into anything else. Okay, so we are only going to be focusing on London and New York AM in this video. So London session is going to go from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. Eastern time, and New York AM is going to go from 8:30 to 11 a.m. Eastern time. And an easy way to figure this out and see it on the charts without going and spotting it on your own is just using this indicator right here. It's called ICT, kill zones and pivots. Here is my session indicators, right? We have London from 2 to 5 a.m., New York AM from 8:30 to 11 a.m. Lunchtime goes from 12 to 1, and then New York PM goes from 1:30 to 4 p.m. and then there's Asia session from 8 p.m. to midnight. But for the sake of this video, we are only going to be focusing on London and New York AM. So now that we got that out the way, what is a basic understanding of a New York manipulation? Okay, so as you can see, London right here is doing what? Well, it's essentially just consolidating, failing to take out any high time frame PD array or important PD array that we can see a possible rejection off of, right? So if that is the case, and we have a low resting right here, okay, and we have another low resting right here, and then on top of that, we also have a unfilled higher time frame PD array. Well, what can we expect before price to deliver higher towards, let's say, these draws up here, this high right here, this high, and then whatever else we have above, right? Let's say we have another unfilled gap up here that we have yet to tap into. Before displacing higher, what is the most probable scenario? Well, New York is most likely going to want to manipulate lower, sweeping out these lows right here, tapping into this higher time frame gap. And then once we tap into this higher time frame gap, we can most likely anticipate a rejection off of it. And then we can go ahead and target this high, this high, this high, and then this unfilled gap up here. And then same thing if we are bearish, right? If, again, London is just accumulating and it's leaving this high, that's unswept, okay? It's leaving this high, that's unswept. We have an unfilled gap up here. Well, what can we expect New York AM to do before continuing lower down towards these draws down here? Well, we can expect it to manipulate higher into this gap, sweep out all these highs right here, fill this imbalance in the market, and then continue lower. And our trade idea will look something like this, right? Stops at the highs. Let's say we find an inversion somewhere in here. Go ahead, target this, and then if we want to go long, this is what our trade idea would look like. Find an inversion somewhere in here, whatever your entry model is. Let's say you enter off of CISD or order block, whatever works, right? We have a IFVG right here. Let's call it enter off the IFVG, and then we go ahead and target all these draws above and this unfilled gap up here. All right, so starting out with example 1, clearly we are bullish on the higher time frames, right? What do we have? Well, we have a unfilled 4-hour gap resting right here. Okay, what else can we go ahead and look for? Let's go down, drop down to the hourly. What do we have? Well, at the same spot, there's an unfilled 4-hour, there's an unfilled hourly. Let's go down to the 15-minute. Okay. In the 15-minute time frame, we have these 15-minute intermediate lows. Let's drop down to the 5-minute real quick. Let's see if there's anything else. Nope, doesn't really look like there's anything on the 5-minute either. Okay. So what did London session fail to do? Well, as you can see, London session had a minor retrace. Okay, and how do we know how price moves? Well, it moves from internal liquidity to external and external to internal. So at this point in time, since we're super bullish, we can expect a pullback into one of these higher time frame gaps and then continue higher to look something like this. Okay. So at this point in time, what does London fail to do? Well, it fails to rebalance this entire price leg up, right? It doesn't hit this 4-hour and 1-hour bearish gap. What does it also do? Well, it leaves London lows, but not only that, it leaves basically equal lows, right? So at this point in time, I'm thinking like, okay, if we have yet to sweep out this general area by the time 8:30 comes, or maybe we don't even do anything right as market opens. Pre-market, I should say, maybe we want to wait till actually New York AM opens at 9:30, right? Well, I can expect us to at least come and manipulate lower, and then if we start displacing through this, cool, we can catch shorts down towards here somewhere, or if we actually hit this area and reject, awesome, we can catch catch longs towards this high right here, right? Then we have this high. Okay, we have this high that looks like it's forming, whatever the case may be. So let's go ahead and see how this plays out. Okay, looks like we took out those draws prior to New York AM opening, whatever the case may be. Awesome. New York AM is here, 8:30 is here, pre-market's here. Let's see what pre-market has to offer. Nothing yet. Okay, as you can see, right at 9:30 when the market opens, we manipulate lower into what? Into this 4-hour gap. We swept out those 15-minute intermediate lows. Awesome. We took out these equal lows that London made prior to New York AM opening. Okay, now if I want to long towards all this low resistance liquidity right here, right? What do I want to see? Well, if I want to take the highest time frame inversion in the leg, I can go ahead and mark out this fair value gap right here on the 5 minute and wait for this to get inversed. And wow, this actually looks like a textbook setup. When did this happen? January 27th? Awesome. Did we get an inverse? Cool. We got an inverse right here. You can have your stop somewhere down here. And then you can go ahead and target all this up here. And let's go ahead and see how this plays out. Bang. And it smacks TP in what? About 10 minutes or so? About 5 to 10 minutes. So this is an example, an entire example of what the trade idea would look like, right? If we have all this area, right? We have our higher time frame narrative where we're clearly bullish, okay? So if we have this resting liquidity below us and we have clear targets above, we should just wait for price to manipulate lower into this gap, sweep out all this area right here, sweep out all this liquidity, these equal lows. And then if we do get a rejection, we can go ahead and enter. And clearly in this example, that is exactly what we got. So with that being said, let's go on to example number 2. All right, so example number 2 literally happened last week. I think it was Thursday of last week. What is this? Yeah, Thursday, February 12th. Okay. What is London session doing? It's doing absolutely nothing, right? We're literally just going sideways. This is terrible price action. You can scan this at the fucking grocery store. Okay. What did we leave above though? What did London fail to take out? It failed to take out this 15-minute fair value gap. So at this point in time, I'm like, okay, if we can get a manipulation higher, I can then look for shorts. And now what did it also do? Well, London failed to take out this low right here as well, right? And what did it do? It left relatively equal lows. So at this point in time, I'm like, okay, if we manipulate lower, we can then go ahead and target this high in this unfilled gap. Or if we manipulate higher at open, something like this, we can then go ahead, take out that gap, and then target shorts down towards these relatively equal lows. That is one way I would go ahead and play this out. So at this point in time, I'm just waiting, I'm waiting. I'm seeing what market open has to offer. Awesome. Pre-market, we manipulate right into this 15-minute fair value gap, take out all these highs up here. So now if I want to short, okay, I want to see an inversion of all these gaps. What ends up happening? Nothing. Okay, so at this point in time, if pre-market is acting like this, it's just creating a whole bunch of low resistance liquidity on the lower time frame, and I want to short. Well, I want to see all this LR get swept out first, and then we can go ahead and short. So when is 930 going to open up? Here's 930's wick. Okay, still have yet to do anything. Right here at 932, we get a good push higher. Still haven't really manipulated out of anything because we want to see a sweep of this high. Okay, awesome. Now we get a resweep of this high inside of that 15-minute fair value gap. Perfect. What do we get right here? Well, we get a fair value gap. Now, if this gets inversed, then we can go ahead and target shorts, right? So what ends up happening? Awesome. We get an inversion. Go ahead, enter off this. Stops at the highs right here. Then we can go ahead and target all this low resistance liquidity and those relatively equal lows down here. Let's go ahead and see how this plays out. Bang, and it runs right towards take profit. This is what I look for every single morning. So this last example I want to go over, it kind of differentiates a little bit differently from the first two examples, but I still want to go over it because you can still look for manipulations into fair value gaps to catch a continuation model, right? So let's say London is, yeah, it's still chopping, and then we get this violent move down. Now, typically we have an AMD model, right, where we kind of chop around like this, and then we make a move lower and then go higher, right? And that's kind of what this looks like, but we're not going to be 100% bullish until these two 15-minute fair value gaps get absolutely ran through, right? And then we can go ahead along from there and maybe target like all these targets higher. Okay. However, we can use this to our advantage because if we're kind of chopping around like we're seeing right here on the lower time frames, okay, kind of just chopping around, and we still have these two on fair value gaps. One of them is unfilled, right? We have this unfilled 15-minute gap right here. Well, then I can look for manipulation into this 15-minute gap, and then if we get a rejection out of it, we can look for continuation shorts. So let's go ahead and see how 930 opens up because clearly pre-market is not doing anything. Okay. Nothing yet. Nothing yet. Awesome. We get a tap into this 15-minute gap. So now I want to see how price reacts, right? We have this accumulation, manipulation higher into this 15-minute fair value gap. And now if I want to short, I just want to see an inversion of this 5-minute fair value gap right here, right? So we're inside of the 15 minutes. Now I want to see an inversion of this 5-minute right here. Still nothing yet. Still nothing yet. Boom. Now we get an inversion of this 5-minute gap. We can go ahead and enter off this inversion. Stops at the highs up here. And we can go ahead and just aim for this wick right here for a nice 1-to-1. Or you can even put your stops at the body, whatever the case may be. And now let's go ahead and see how this plays out on the 1-minute time frame. Okay. still going down, still going down. Bang. And your TP would have hit right here. So it's going to vary day to day, but your manipulation doesn't always have to be what London missed out on. If London creates a fair value gap, you can look for New York to manipulate into that gap and then continue the trend lower. So with that being said, I hope you guys learned something from this video. It is a pretty easy subject to grasp. However, if you guys do have any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and leave them in the comments. If you guys want to join the free Discord, link is in the description for that. And if you guys are looking to up your allocation, I'm now partnered with Alpha Futures and Lucid Trade. So I'll leave the links in the description for both of those. That being said, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch y'all boys in the next one.